Oh shit.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Whoops. Piss and Vinegar Day 77. Arm Wrestling Day. Today, side pressure felt like shit, and thus I didn't do 5x5. I did 3 sets of 10 because it was just didn't feel it in my elbow today. Too much pain, not enough stability, felt weak, and it's probably because I did a 1 rep max last session. So, central nervous system joints might not be quite recovered yet because it's out of all the 1 rep maxes you can do, a side pressure 1 rep max is probably the one that needs the most recovery time because it is just such a brutally damaging fucking movement for your elbows. So yeah, I didn't quite feel it today and just felt painful. Blah blah blah, whatever. Today's topic is my novice program that will be coming out on my 100th subscriber. So currently at 98. If you guys want that early, make a fake account or get a mate to subscribe, or a new guy watching, just fucking subscribe. There's plenty of cool content coming your way, and you will be illuminated on all the different benefits to high intensity training. Save time, save blood, sweat, and tears, and get better gains. But the novice program, which is not going to be high intensity, well, yeah, as soon as I have 100 subscribers, that's dropping out. That's ready to go. It's going to be a video format, and it's also going to be in written format in the description. So any of you guys right now who are still in your novice stage, or a beginner, or a guy who's been training for a while but you still have kind of strength standards of a novice, which to my standards is if you're not at least able to bench press about 80 kilos, if you're not able to at least squat 100 kilos, if you're not at least able to deadlift 120, and if you're not at least able to do overhead press 40 kilos, you are still, in fact, a novice. And that is a very conservative estimate. Like, a lot of times, these novice programs, these strength standards are 60 kilo overhead press, 100 kilo bench press, 140 kilo squat, 180 kilo deadlift. Now, I think for some people that is wildly unreasonable. There are plenty of people out there who are simply not going to get that strong from a novice program. It's going to take a lot longer. And obviously there's other people out there who that's no fucking problem to them. So yeah, it just depends. Like for me with my novice program, when I first started doing training again, 8 years ago, and I did a novice program, and my bench press was like advanced within like 6 months. Like I blew the novice standards out of the window very quickly. But my squat, I probably still am a novice on my squat because my squat just sucks. Like, I mean, back when I did my novice program, I was 105 kilos or something like that. Like, I was a bit chubbier. Maybe I was a bit lighter, maybe more like 95. But, yeah, I was heavier. So, I ended up getting to about 110 before I had to switch over to advanced programming because that's just where it stopped for me. Like, most people get to about 3 plates in the squat, or maybe 2.5, 3 plates. Some people go beyond that. In my case, my leg genetics so shitty, my lower back dysfunctions and stuff so limiting that for me the novice strength standards weren't applicable. So I take a bit more of a conservative route and say if you're not benching 40, if you're not benching 80, you're not overhead pressing 40, you're not squatting 100, you're not deadlifting 120 at least, then you're most definitely still in the novice stage. And then, if you're an average dude with average genetics and like all across the board, there's a good chance that if you haven't hit the strength standards I just said, which 60, 100, 140, 180, you're in fact still probably a novice. Or if you haven't gotten out of your basic linear progression phase, that's the best way of defining it. So you might have been training for 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. There's plenty of these guys who've been training for a long time who still look like shit and are still super weak because they just never did proper programming. And for a novice or a beginner, there's a certain way to program it, and it's not in high intensity. I mean, it can be, but ideally it's a slightly different. It's quite a lot different. It's more of a 5x5 program. So yeah, that's what's coming, and it is going to be far, far, far superior to any novice program you've ever seen. If you're currently running a novice program, I, with utter confidence, can say that this will be most likely, at the very least, it'll be as good as the one you're running, if not better, because there are so many novice programs out there, and so many of them are fucking dog shit. I mean, they're not necessarily dog shit, but they're confusing and they're limited, especially when you're a novice or a beginner and you have no knowledge of programming. You can't improvise on the fly to try to kind of adapt to lack of specificity in the program's instructions. Like right now, or when I did my novice program when I first started again, I had already previously been training for 2 years from 14 to 16. I took a 2 to 3 year break off and then started training about 18, 19 again. So when I started doing a novice program, it was really difficult for me because I still didn't know enough about exercise science to really interpret it. But it was very vague. It was Alpha Destiny or Alex Leonidas's original novice program. He might have a better one now or a paid one, but back then that was probably one of the most forefront, or whatever the word is. It was the most popular one at the time, and it was okay. It was decently specific in a lot of its parameters, but there was plenty of shit that he would leave out. Like, for one, the fact that not everyone is going to have the same strength standards, or assuming everyone's going to get to a 140 kilo squat. That's insane. You're not taking into consideration height, weight, genetics, all these different factors. He didn't have a really good way of progressively overloading, and he didn't specify how to progressively overload correctly, which is a very important factor to novices, because novices will just try and add weight every single session, and that can happen sometimes to certain lifts, but a lot of lifts will not go up every single session. Like, bicep curls will not progress every single session, no matter how new you are. You might get like a week or two where you can progress the weight every single session on a curl just from pure massive amounts of neurological adaptations your body can make. But after that, man, you're lucky to fucking add like 5 kilos a month, or maybe even a few kilos a month to your bicep curl when you're a novice. And I mean, let alone a more advanced person like me. I always want to say client because that's kind of how I talk as a PT. But even an advanced lifter like me, or an intermediate lifter or whatever, man, to add 5 kilos to my bicep curl, that could take 6 months. That could take a year, because it's a smaller muscle group. So they progress slower when you have smaller muscle groups. Squats can very well progress 2.5 kilos every single session. I've had clients who will go up 2.5 kilos every single session. I had a client, a younger guy, 23, who went from a 60 kilo squat to a 140 kilo squat in 2 months. Just every single session, or whatever the mathematics was, whatever the math was on it, he got to 140 kilos from 60 kilos by basically just progressing 2.5 kilos every single session, which is essentially 2 or 3 months worth of training. And that was only training twice a week. If he did it 3 times a week, it might have been even faster. So that's an example of someone who was genetically gifted in the squat. Part of it also was he was shorter. He was 5'7". I'm 6 foot. So, it's harder for a taller guy to progressively overload the squat. I've had clients who are 6'5", and that takes even longer because they're just so tall. The leverages are so much harder to work with. I've had even shorter clients than the one who got the 140 kilo squat really quickly, and they typically also progress really fast. So there are many factors that go into training, and strength standards and expectations and all these different parameters. So this novice program is going to be extremely fleshed out. I'm going to try and think of it as every little specific detail I can that matters a decent amount. I don't want to give too much information to beginners or novices because information overload will only confuse things, but I'm going to give as much specific detail I need to give to make sure that if there's anything they don't understand, it will be answered. And it's going to be an entirely free program. This is a program I very well could easily have sold for money. Maybe not successfully because I don't have a very big following, but if I wanted to, I could very much sell this for a hefty penny because it's pretty well fleshed out, especially the written program that I write. The video won't be as fleshed out. It'll be a bit more vague, but as specific as I can make it without the video being fucking 3 hours long or whatever. But yeah, it's free for you guys because I'm eternally grateful for the subscriber base that you guys have given me. So free novice program. There's a good chance, even if you don't think you're a novice, you are a novice. Or you might be, in my case, I'm still a novice on my squat. So I'm currently not doing a novice program for my squat because I only squat once a week because I do my high intensity leg days, which means I can only train my legs once a week. But I start every leg day off with 3 sets of 5 reps. So I'm still doing linear progression on my squat. And that's obviously, if after 8 years of training, somewhat inconsistently, but still, regardless, if I had been squatting this whole time, I wouldn't be in the novice stage. But this is because I've been so inconsistent with my squats and just so half-assed with my training for a lot of years, that I only just started squatting maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. So I'm kind of still getting out of my novice stage once again. I've been out of the novice stage on my squats before. I've squatted like 150 kilos, 160 kilos for reps, not high reps, albeit, but decently like more intermediate / advanced. But no longer. My squats are quite weak, especially now that I'm a lot lighter than I used to be. Weight moves weight. So, I forgot what my point was there, but like, yeah, I'm a novice in my squats, so I understand the grind of being a novice throughout all kinds of time frames, now and before. So yeah, I think this program will be great for any guys that really want to. I know this program will be great for anyone that wants to start embarking upon a training journey. And I might even create a program in the future for any of you guys who embark on this program. I'll create a program as a kind of a weaning experience. So in other words, you'll do the novice program for about 6 to 12 months. And by the time you guys tomorrow who watch the video decide to jump on that program, by the time you're off it, there'll be another video or program that I might make for free. I might make it paid, I don't know, where you can switch slowly over to high intensity training. So it'll be like a weaning process, because a lot of times what will happen is you'll start a novice program and certain movements will keep linear progressing for a long time. Like my deadlifts didn't stall out, albeit they took a long time to get strong because of my legs. My deadlifts didn't stall out linear progressive wise for over a year. I kept just doing 5x5 on my deadlifts, and it just kept linear progressing for over and over and over. Whereas like my bicep curls, and this is very common, you can't do linear progression, linear progression is, you'll do that your whole life, but you can't do like, say, 4 sets of 8 to 12 bicep curls over and over and over on the novice program, because it starts to slow down quite a lot, and you'll start to milk out your quick linear progression, and then you'll need to switch over to high intensity with a more slow, steady progression with less frequency and volume. So, and that might only take like 4 or 5 months before the biceps stall out completely, before you need like a bunch of calories or a slightly different programming technique. In this case, it will be high intensity. So, like, as you go through the novice program, certain movements might need to be then switched out for high intensity as they start to stall out, and then eventually you'll get to the last movement of the linear progression, which, let's say, for example, is your deadlift. Every other movement in your program is now being done once a week with high intensity, except for your deadlift. It's still doing somewhat decent amount of frequency. And eventually that will stall out too, and then you switch over to high intensity. But that's going to be a weaning process, and I might make a program, or I very well likely will make a program on how to go about that, switching from novice program to high intensity programs. Because normally the progression is you go from a novice program to an intermediate program, which is a very similar program to a novice program, but the parameters of volume and intensity and percentage-based work and all these different other parameters that go into periodization training start to come in. And that's fine, but again, like, you don't really need that shit after your mass linear progression is out of the way. You're vastly better off just switching HIIT at that point. Once the ligaments, tendons, joints, and central nervous system and technique has been achieved, then you're better off just switching to high intensity, because it takes far less time out of your week. It is far more effective most of the time for steady progression, and you don't have to worry about all these different training parameters. You can just go into the gym, take it to failure, bam, you're out. So yeah, rather than going onto an intermediate program and then like an advanced program, and a lot of these programs are just like powerlifting or power building bullshit stuff. Like, it's not really bodybuilding. Like, part of the novice stage is simplicity, and then after the novice stage is done, you then are capable of adding more isolation movements to really work on specificity. Like, typically with novice programs, they don't have side lateral raises, for example. Mine does, actually. There's a lot more bodybuilding-esque type of stuff in my novice program that will allow you to actually have a well-rounded physique, rather than these like fucking starting strength freaks who just have like Klinefelter's physiques because all they do is squats and deadlifts and bench presses. and they'll do a fucking bicep curl or any neck curls or anything. So there's actually a lot more exercises to select from in my novice program, which will make you have a far better looking physique at the end, rather than just being strong but shitty looking. And then there's also nutritional guidelines in order to make sure you don't get too fat, because starting strength and like these novices oftentimes will overdo the bulk, and it will fuck with their linear progression and everything. So anyway, enough of that, because I'm going to go way into more depth through this video once the 100 subscribers come. Thank you guys in advance, and see you guys tomorrow for more Piss and Vinegar.